Will Sukuna attain the Maharaga? Let's talk about it. Well, I think he will, but I don't think he'll do it as soon as we thought he would. Because if Sukuna is struggling to get off a cleave right now, like there's no way he's pulling out a malevolent shrine on this thing. And Megumi's shown he's totally willing to die to stop people way less powerful than Sukuna. Listen, if you're willing to die in combat against this guy, then you're pretty much willing to die against anyone. And somehow, the evil sorcerers in this series seem less mentally stable than the inhuman curses. Like, in all honesty, I would rather be stuck around Mahito all day than this guy. So the Maharaga being the absolute unit of all Shikigami, I mean, this thing is a positive cursed energy sword. That is pretty cool. And while I'm sure they have positive cursed energy weapons somewhere else, having it attached to your own Shikigami means you don't even have to like carry it around. It's just always there with you once you tame the Maharaga. And it being called a Divine General just makes me assume it's going to have like a more leadership role among the Shikigami that Megumi does have. Because I don't really see the Maharaga combining with like an elephant and a rabbit. Because when I first saw the Maharaga, I just thought he was a Baraka Shikigami. So now, why did he really want the 10 Shadows in the first place? I actually have a few theories on this. So we know that Sukuna, while he was interested in the Shikigami when he saw Nu, the biggest piece of information in this scene to me, though, is that he was interested in how the Shikigami were made, not necessarily what they were. Because after Sukuna deleted Geto's groupies and he saw the Maharaga in Shibuya, while he was impressed by it, more than we've really seen him be impressed by most things, he didn't really seem like, oh my god, this thing is insane, I have to get on my hands on it immediately. And while I definitely expect he will, I have a feeling that 10 Shadows is going to interact with his curse technique in some way that we didn't really expect. Like the fact that Sukuna's curse technique has been hidden by Gege the entire series pretty much, except for like Cleave and Dismantle, like that's pretty sus. This thing's probably going to be busted. I imagine in Sukuna's arsenal, there are a tremendous amount of things we don't know about, because this guy just pulled a fire technique like out of nowhere against Jogo. And his fire technique was like competing with the guy whose whole thing is being a volcano. And while Gojo isn't the strongest cursed spirit, he is very strong, especially when he punks some people. So the idea of things like Chimera Shadow Garden, which it's not entirely clear if he can actually use Chimera Shadow Garden inside of Megumi, because while on the surface you'd think no, because a domain expansion is a reflection of your soul, we see in the Mahito fight that their souls are linked together when you're a vessel. Or if they're not linked, they're like living across the street from each other. Now, I don't think we're going to see that until we have like a 20-finger Sukuna in Megumi's body, because currently Yuji is just walking on him like he's the thing from It Follows, and Sukuna's on like 10% battery power, so while Yuji may need some extra clothes, this guy needs a charger ASAP. On the subject of Megumi fighting back against Sukuna, the fact that he's not a pushover who just lets Sukuna take over his body completely does make me happy, because him being strong enough to even handle Sukuna is a miracle in itself as a sorcerer, and I believe that's partially why Sukuna said it's a gamble from here, because he wasn't entirely sure if Megumi could handle him, but he was pretty confident just because Megumi is a very strong sorcerer and is an extremely powerful technique. He just doesn't really give himself enough credit. Now, Sukuna is an extremely arrogant person, so I imagine if he's ever put in a position where he's on, like, the pushback, he's going to be really petty. Like, Sukuna, at this point, he just really seems like a character you can never leave around. Like, he just can't be allowed to exist in the world. Wherever this guy goes, he will, like, I mean, the first thing he does when he comes out of the box, effectively, is just say, man, look at all the undestroyed things. I think Kenjaku's a bigger threat to the overall world, because Sukuna doesn't really seem like a guy that would do anything other than just, like, vibe. And by vibing, I mean doing whatever he wants, and what he wants to do is hurt a lot of people. Now, where Kenjaku has like a plan formulated around how he wants to change the world, Sukuna doesn't really seem to want to change the world at all. He's just going to do whatever he wants, and even though he has probably some plans for his personal goals, I doubt they're as grand as Kenjaku's. Like, I don't expect him to even kill Kenjaku if he met him immediately, because Sukuna, while he is a super malicious person and kills people on a whim, he isn't like immediately kill people for no reason. Like, we saw this in Shibuya where he could have killed Panda and co, and pandas are an endangered species, so that's not very hype of him. I think Kenjaku's counting on this in his quote-unquote new world, that he doesn't really care if Sukuna's in it, because while Sukuna is absolutely an asshole, and he is definitely chaotic evil, he's not really going to go around, like, disrupting whole organizations, because he doesn't really care, and we even see this in his conversation with Gojo in, like, their one-finger fight, and he says, oh, you sorcerers are a problem in every generation. Which I think is the interesting part of Sukuna's character, is that, you know, like, this guy just sucks. Like, there's really no other way to put it than Sukuna is just, he sucks. Like, why would you ever want to be around this guy? He's just the worst to deal with. Like, you'd have to watch what you say the entire time. Anywhere this dude is, you aren't entirely sure if he's not gonna just like blow up a building because he was bored. So I imagine that in the ancient period when he was vibing around the entire time, quite a few sorcerers came up to like either came across him or he hunted them down, and like they irritated him a bit, he would kill them and then move on. Like, I see why they call him a calamity, and I don't think it's just because of his powers, because he's just so damn emotionally unstable. You know, I suspect that the sorcerers that teamed up against him didn't particularly like each other. They just hated Sukuna that much more because he is just a pain in the ass. So they all just teamed up and jumped this fool and lost. Sukuna is the type of guy who would shoot your dog and then call the cops on you for having your dog on his lawn. Anywhere this guy is, the collective happiness just goes down. Sukuna just has to die. Like, anybody this prideful and arrogant is almost always an absolute whiner when they lose. So everybody clap your hands together and pray we're going to see Sukuna have his envy moment from Fullmetal Alchemist. So those are most of my thoughts on Sukuna. I was working on a Gojo video and an Ichigo video coming up soon, but I decided to work on this a little bit instead. I never claimed to be a man of culture, but hopefully I'm pronouncing the names better this time. So if you like videos like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thanks for watching.